Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm here to talk to you today about Elizabeth Wittenberg Ozment's dissertation chapter that you're reading, and then about Crumb's Winds of Destiny song cycle. So to start with, let's talk about the Ozment chapter. This is a chapter from her dissertation that as a whole is about music as a part of Civil War collective memory. And it's a really interesting project that she was able to carry out. She attended reenactments. She has a whole chapter, as I was telling you in class, about Civil War brass bands, and another about a mock slave auction theater event that she attended, and a Gettysburg reenactment Memorial Weekend and things like that. And then this chapter that just really stands out to me for the silliness and the playfulness of the idea of Dinosaur Kingdom II. It is, to me, reads as just like completely absurd, and I can't believe it exists. I'm dying to go there in real life. The premise of Dinosaur Kingdom II is that the Confederates were able to, as in the movie Jurassic Park, figure out how to clone and bring back dinosaurs. They then use those dinosaurs to win the Civil War. So it's also an alternate history, and it's a very fantastical one. So I'm definitely going to switch over to the website so that I can show you a bit of what that actually looks like. You might notice that it's called Dinosaur Kingdom 2, as though that there was a Dinosaur Kingdom 1. And the answer is that at some point, Dinosaur Kingdom 1 burned to the ground. I don't really know that much about the story, but now we have Dinosaur Kingdom 2 because they rebuilt it, etc., etc. So you can see that it's really an attraction. Looks like they had a special Halloween thing going on. Check this out. Them wacky Yankees is at it again. We've got this dinosaur. He has this Yankee by the shirt collar, and I guess he's going to eat him right off of the back of his horse. This is in like rural West Virginia on the side of the highway. It's that kind of attraction that you see a road sign for and you beg your parents to stop at, and they're like, absolutely not. So I definitely am going to journey to Dinosaur Kingdom 2 sometime in the next year, and I can't wait. From the creators of Foamhenge and Lexington's Ghost Tour. So you can tell that it's also like created by people who are kind of in the business of roadside attractions. Like what I can only imagine is a styrofoam recreation of Stonehenge. So let's look at a couple more pictures if we can. She explains in the chapter this sort of place, you walk through it, there's music that helps add to the kind of emotional content and narrative of what's going on here. There's a dinosaur eating a skeleton of a Yankee for some reason. And I believe there's a part where like Abraham Lincoln is falling out of a dinosaur's mouth. I think dinosaurs are probably like the easiest thing to do to attract kids to your roadside show, because everybody loves dinosaurs, especially kids. Here's some sketches of what the place looks like. So it's just really wacky and it looks really fun. Oh, I would love to have my birthday party at Dinosaur Kingdom 2. So the rest of her chapter will give you a sense of like how she interprets the meaning of such a place where music interacts with all of these other theatrical and kind of animatronic elements to tell this alternate history of the Civil War. I'm fascinated by it. I just think it's a delight. So I also love dinosaurs. So for me, it's like combining these two things that I have this really long-term interest in. So then the other thing I've asked you to consume is the song cycle by George Crumb. It's called Winds of Destiny. He has a whole series of song cycles that he calls American Songbook that are recreations of American folk songs. And I actually played a bit of Beautiful Dreamer for you that was his a long time ago when we were in the Torino talking about things like affect and signs and icons and indexes and so on. And yes, this is the same George Crumb that you have listened to quite a bit during the Black Angels part of our Vietnam unit. So it's the same composer. And Black Angels is written in, what did we say, 1969 and 70, and Winds of Destiny is from 2004, so the same year that the CSA film was premiered. Crumb also created this song cycle. You'll probably recognize a lot of the songs in it, and the idea behind American Songbook is that he will take pre-existing songs for the most part and write new versions of them. So it includes some hymns, it includes some very familiar Civil War songs, because Winds of Destiny is meant to be all about the Civil War. And it starts with the Battle Hymn of the Republic, which we've talked a bit about. And then we hear When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again, that we've also heard in the Ken Burns, and then chatted about just a little bit. So those two songs are very recognizable Civil War songs. A lot of the other ones in the cycle are not necessarily connected to the Civil War, but they are just connected with Americana, or they're from the 19th century or even older, like Shenandoah, that's the last song in the cycle. They all have some kind of thematic connection to like rural American past, whether or not that's like explicitly about the war. Crumb has a tendency to take those songs that are often like upbeat and happy and then recast them in this kind of like eerie context, and it changes the meaning of the songs. So particularly in the first two, in the Battle Hymn of the Republic, that sounds very ghostly. We can sort of imagine that irony is a big theme in the cycle in general, so we can imagine that if you hear a version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic like that, then it's not the same kind of upbeat patriotic message that it would have had if you heard like an army band rendition of it. And the same goes for When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again. The irony there, the sarcasm in the singer's voice when she's like, hurrah, hurrah. It's kind of over the top, but the idea, I think, is that she's not buying it. She doesn't believe that Johnny's actually going to come home again. Or maybe it's true for some people, but it hasn't been true for her. And it's sad. So it's sort of a mourning piece, but it's also, I think, deeply ironic and can have this sort of like localized message about what it means for the narrator of the song and her particular Johnny. But you can also broaden it to think about in general the scale of death in the Civil War, and you can even extend it beyond that to think of it, because it was written in 2004, right when the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan were getting going. We can even think about it as an expression of kind of sarcasm and disbelief about the success of any war, or as a critique of those wars too. So that is definitely how I hear that song, and you may or may not hear those elements in the same kind of vein that I do. It'll depend on your other kind of listening experiences. But I do think that in general, Crumb's resettings of these songs changes their meanings. And we can argue or debate about kind of what the precise meanings are, but I think that changing the context for them and the mood, the tone of those songs changes what they express. So all of those songs are written for a soprano and then 4 people playing percussion instruments, and it's like a lot of percussion instruments like set up all over the stage, and then 1 person playing the piano. So it's a large kind of instrumental background for a singer, an individual singer. I believe the only song that's an outlier in this cycle is The Enchanted Valley, and that is based on a text that his daughter wrote. And Crumb's daughter was a really successful Broadway singer, actually, and also sang some of his songs. I don't think that the ones I'm having you listen to have Anne Crumb on them, but I believe that The Enchanted Valley is based on a poem that she wrote and not a pre-existing folk song, and that's kind of the only real outlier. So when I say that the context changes the meaning, part of what I mean is that the songs sound really haunting. And so I think it's worth asking, as you listen to these songs, like, well, what are we haunted by? And if it is about the Civil War specifically, then what about the Civil War still haunts us? And I think that's a valuable question for us to ask, especially in this week of our course. But you can also extend that broadly to like, what are Americans haunted by in general, especially when it comes to war, that war, all wars, etc. There's a lot that you can unpack there. So I hope that you'll give it a listen and think about some of those themes. And if you want to focus your listening, you can focus especially on those first two songs, My Knights Have Seen the Glory and When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again. So that's the Battle of Hymn of the Republic, and then When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again. And I look forward to seeing all your comments on the discussion. If you have any questions or any tech issues, definitely please let me know as soon as you can. Bye for now.